Okay, we are back to Pirkei Avos after a month. My apologies for all of the unrelated cancellations. Before I start, it's quite possible that if I find a Hanukkah related topic that I want to give shiur on, I feel like this is one of my only venues that I could give a shiur on. Not only venues that I could give a shiur on it, but like this is like, I could give a shiur on whatever I want here. So if you have a request for a Hanukkah topic, feel free to let me know, and ideally let me know before Shabbos, because what I do is I print out all the sources I think I'll need before Shabbos, and then I explore on Shabbos. So let me know. Okay, we've been in the middle of this mishnah for a while. We are now literally in the middle of it, the second of the three clauses. This is Avos 1:6. Yehoshua ben Parachia Omer. So we did Aseh Lecha Rav. I think we spent two sessions on that. Uknei Lecha Chaver. That's what we're doing today. Acquire or purchase for yourself a friend. V'hevidan es kol ha'adam l'kav zchus. And judge every person to the side of merit, which we did first. Okay. So we listed questions on the first two clauses last time because Rashi took us into the second clause. So I'm going to repeat our questions that we did before. And then if we have other questions, we'll ask them. So we asked, what does each verb mean? Aseh, make, for Rav, and then Knei, acquire or purchase, and why is each used in its clause? Furthermore, doesn't the opposite make sense? We usually say get a Rav and make a friend. Do either of these verbs imply an answer to the how question, and to what extent? Oh, we also did the Meiri on like he gave us both. I think about like one of them is harder and the other one's easier, and then he flipped them. Okay, two, why does it seemingly just say a friend without specifying what kind of friend? And don't claim that friend automatically implies good qualities, because the next Mishnah says don't befriend a Rasha, which means that we are, discriminating here. And the next chapter says you should get a Chaver Tov and avoid a Chaver Ra. So the fact that it just says Chaver would seem to imply, unqualified. Okay, three, both clauses are stated in the singular, but what is their meaning? We can see an argument for why you should only have one Rav, but presumably you should have multiple friends. So why not Knei Lecha Chaverim? Four, what is the Hava Mina? What is the erroneous assumption we'd be prone to making before learning this? Duh. We can understand why the Mishnah would tell us to get a Rav, but why does the Mishnah need to tell us to get a friend? That's like a natural thing. And then who is the intended audience? Seems like everyone needs this advice, but if Pirkei Avos is for leaders and or the chassid in training, does he really need to be told to get a Rav and a friend? So any other questions we want to add to this? I mean, I think we were thorough last time, and I don't see any questions, but who knows? And again, a question one could ask is there a relationship between the three clauses? But we're not taking that approach here, because to my understanding, neither Rambam nor Rabbeinu Yonah take that approach, and those are the two we're learning today. Okay, I'll put the questions in the chat also. Okay, so the plan for tonight, as I mentioned in the announcement, never can do all the questions here. Nope, still not. Hold on. Oh, does it matter what gender your friend is? That's a good question. Hold on here. Something's going on with this chat. Hold on. Yeah, actually, I'm gonna broaden that question to uh say like, I guess question number two aside, what qualities should or shouldn't this friend have? Okay. And are there specifications we care about? Like, you know, let's say like, gender, mitzvah observance, knowledge, etc. Um, yeah, I do. So in the chat, Vanessa saying, I wonder if there is a way of reading acquire a friend to mean get married. So I can't say that Chazal would never say express that as in the language of friendship, but I don't think they mean that here. I think there's like much clearer ways to say that. So that's why I don't think they're saying that here. And also, you have to get married. Like that's not a well. Let's put it this way: men have to get married because men have an obligation to prove a revu. So I don't think they need to tell you
It
to
doesn't need
do.
to be an Aבות. Yep, that's a
Yeah,
good. Thank you.
yeah. No, I'm glad you asked it though. Okay, so let's go. So the plan for tonight is like this: we're gonna do Rambam and Rabbeinu Yonah. Rambam is the most important. treatise on friendship that I've ever read. It's not a treatise, it's like 2 paragraphs, but like he says what he said has shaped my entire view of relationships for my ever since I started, ever since I learned it. And it's one of the things that like I've been through many times, but every time I go through it, I see new ideas. And then we're going to read Rabbeinu Yonah, and there is an overlap. So I want to understand each one on their own, and then like what the parameters are for each one. Okay, so let's see what we come up with. Now, it's been so long since I made the source sheet that I don't remember if I translated this or if I vetted it. Like I made ChatGPT do it, and I vetted it, or whether or not. So I'm going to go ahead and do what I usually do and read in the Hebrew, and we'll tweak stuff in English if need be. Okay, Uknei Lecha Chaver. Amru b'lashon kniya. They express this in the language of acquisition. V'lo amar aseh lecha chaver, and they did not say make a friend for yourself. Oh, hischaber lechaverim, or let's see, I don't like this. Is definitely not my translation. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and translate this fresh. Okay, so they did not say make a friend for yourself, or hischaber lechaverim, or befriend friends of kiyotz bezeh, or other things like that. Hagvana, the intent is shiroi la'adam lakachas la'atzmo chaver al kol panim, that no matter what, a person must acquire a friend. Kadei sheyutbu b'kach kol inyanav, in order to benefit each other in all their affairs. Kamosh amru, as they said. This is a typo in the Hebrew here. As they said in, I think this is a Gemara in Tainus. It sounds better in Aramaic. O chavrusa o misusa, either friendship or death. Okay, meaning that the implication obviously here is that that your life is not worth living in a certain sense if you don't have a friend. Okay, v'im lo yimtzuhu, and if you don't find one, tzarech lihishtalu b'kach, you need to strive or like exert yourself for this. Vafilu yirachshehu lechaverus tchila ad sheyeh chaver. Even to the point where you I guess literally purchase, or like maybe what's the not it's gotta be a good word for like pay money, but not like I don't know, whatever, like spend maybe is a better word, maybe where you spend money for the friendship at first, until he becomes a friend. Okay, by the way, I'm using the word he because the gender here is male, but like apply it however we however we answer question number 6. Velo yachtal milinhog lefi rucho ad sheyischazik chavruso, and do not cease behaving in accordance with his psyche. Okay, ruach, I think the best translation in English is psyche. Okay, literally spirit. Until the friendship is strengthened. Yeah, Vanessa?
This might be on the veins of question number 2, but now I'm thinking like what, and the Rambam might like get into this as we finish translating, but
Yeah.
what constitutes friendship? Like I could say like, oh, my friend from school said this, but like in other ways we're
Yeah.
not friends.
So the
Like
Rum is going to categorize friendships in a little while. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Just 1 second here. Kumosha Amru Anshe Hamusar, as the ethical masters said, Im Ischa Berta, if you befriend someone, Al Tischaber Lefi Darkecha, do not befriend according to your way, Ella Hischaber Lefi Darkosha Chaverach, but rather befriend according to the way of your friend. Okay. Ukeshata, I mean, we're going to analyze this obviously. V'kasherti kavanas kol echad min hachaverim al pi tzava zo, and when the intent of each of the friends is in accordance with this directive, harizoti mataras kol echad mehem lamali ratzon chavero, then the desire of each one of them will be to fulfill. The goal of each one of them. The goal of each one of them will be to fulfill the other's will, or the will of his friend. V'nimtzam shemataras kulam ledavar echad bli safek. And consequently, their goal will be aligned without a doubt. V'kama na'e mamar Aristo. How beautiful is the statement of Aristotle? Now, this is hard to translate here. And remember, the Rambam was working with translations of of Aristotle from the Greek. I don't believe the Rambam knew Greek, or maybe did not have access to Aristotle's works in Greek. I think this was through the Muslim scholars. Hayadid ha'acher hu'ata. So the way I would translate that Hebrew translation is your other friend is yourself, but possibly it's your friend is your other self. I think that makes more sense. Okay, so let's pause here, ask questions, and then read the rest of the Ram. This is half of it, but he's about to classify the friendships in a little while. Okay, so this is questions and problems on the Rambam. So what do you say here? Yeah, Vanessa?
Wouldn't this beginning like be a false premise for a friendship? I think in modern sensibilities, the idea is like you connect on values, on conversation, not on like money and like making the guy like you and like doing what he
Okay,
wants.
well, here's the thing. I think even in the Rambam, he's saying you're talking about this part here about spending money.
Yeah, but also the stuff in yeah.
Well, yeah, which part were you talking about?
I mean
You think
the argument in general, don't cease behaving in accordance with his psyche until the friendship is strengthened. Like keep capitulating to like the way he acts until you
right?
guys have a solid friendship and then you can do whatever you want. Like I understand this maybe for someone who's like, this is what you should do if you have zero friends and you're really struggling.
Right.
But as like a general treatise on friendship, wouldn't it make more sense to like be yourself, see if anything comes your way, and then try this?
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, so I guess let's phrase the question this way. Um, Regarding the Rambam's strategies for cultivating friendships, um, i.e., you know, spend money, you know, well, there's got to be a word to accustom yourself or like behave according to their. There's a word for this in English when you behave according to their personality, not accustom yourself. That's the Hebrew. You know what I'm talking about? There's a word for like. All right, I'll say conduct yourself. Conduct yourself according to their personality. Um, so then, well, I guess like what is the proper place for these strategies? And how do we square this with the, I guess, you know, normal way of making friends? Or I guess normal slash modern, right? Slash modern way of making friends, i.e., you know, be yourself, you know, and you'll find your tribe, right? Something like that. Yeah. Okay, that's a good question. What else? Yeah, Rochelle?
I feel like someone could not have friends outside of their family or significant other, technically, and still have like satisfied their relationship. So
Okay,
it's, I don't know.
that's a good question. So I guess the question here is, I guess you could ask that from two directions. You could say, um, is this specifically um requiring, I guess like not requiring, directing a uh person to make a friend outside of their family and significant other, or can this friendship be fulfilled, um or I guess be one of those people, right? All right, so like for example, common example is can this friend be an Ezer Kenegdo, which is the phrase that the Torah uses for your spouse, or do you need a friend, a best friend, right, outside of that? Yeah, is that what you're asking? Yeah, okay. I want to know, what does Aristotle mean? such that Rambam sees fit to quote him. Yeah, Vanessa?
Isn't the directive of like act not according to your way, but to his way a bit circular? Like,
So that's
what do you
interesting.
want?
He acknowledges the circularity, right? Or not the circularity. He says, so he starts off by saying, do not cease behaving in accordance with his psyche until the friendship is strengthened. So that seems one directional, right? And
Yeah.
he says, as the ethical master says, if you befriend someone, do not befriend according to your way, but rather befriend according to the way of your friend. But then he transitions and he says, and when the intent of each of the friends is in accordance with this directive, then the goal of each of them will be to fulfill the will of his friend, and consequently their goals will be aligned. That makes it sound like it's going both ways.
Right, but when it's going both ways and you're saying like, "Oh, what do you want to do?" and then he goes, "Whatever you want to do." And like, I'm like reminded of the
Well,
Coming to America scene, like whatever you
oh,
like.
sorry. You know what? Hold on a second. I actually translate this too loosely. Their goal will be for, it says, for the same thing without a doubt. Okay. Meaning that it seems like, I mean, I said their goals will be aligned, but like, it seems like they will naturally want to do something that will be in line with both of their desires, you know? And it's not,
Okay.
it
I can
is
see
not
that.
saying that you should like neglect your desire and turn off your personality and say like, oh, I'm a blank slate. I will do whatever you want, you know, like it's
That's
saying
kind
that
of
you
how I
should
read it.
conduct yourself according to the way that they want, you know. So for example, like let's use a common example here. Let's say like you're going to out to lunch with your friend, right? And you want Mexican and your friend wants like, like whatever, like
Chinese.
Chinese, right? So it's not saying each one should absolutely negate their own desire. It means like you should prioritize wanting to do what is something that's going to make them happy, and then they're going to want to do something that'll make you happy, and you'll obviously go to a fusion restaurant. You know,
Okay, fine.
yeah, yeah, I know, but I don't think he means like in such an extreme way.
Okay.
Um, I'm just trying to think still if we can translate it into a question though. I guess let's ask this just as a practical question on its own, which is, I'm actually going to put it up here. Um, I guess how far should you go in these strategies, right? For example, should you impoverish yourself for the sake of such of cultivating such a friendship? After all, either friendship or death. Um, okay, and likewise, um, to what extent should you, there's a word, it's not acclimate. There's a verb that I'm striving for like making your personality like
Mirror?
mirror is good. That's not the one I'm looking for though.
It's not. I
Mirror
know
is
what
like
you're going for, but I don't know what the word is.
yeah.
It's not
Okay.
not ingratiate, right? That's not exactly what you're
Say again.
saying.
Oh yeah, maybe it's ingratiate. Ingratiate though also maybe it's not because I feel like I mean
Mimic.
it is kind of ingratiating. The only difference is like I feel like ingratiating. I mean you are ingratiating. You're doing something to make them like you, right? I'll use the word ingratiating here just so we have it. So to what extent should you, yeah, not mimic. Mimic and mirror both seem to be like copy, you know. And I don't really think that's the emphasis here. Should you defer? Maybe that's what I'm looking for. Defer to their psyche. Um like right, to for the sake of cultivating the friendship. And at what point is it impractical or unhealthy? Right? Because we know that that's like a recipe for really, really bad relationship. If you just like totally make yourself like, actually we did this in Mishlei on Monday, right? What are we doing Mishlei on Monday? Mishlei 17. Hold on. We did yes. One who covers an offense seeks love, but one who repeats a matter separates a friend or alienates a friend. And we had whose idea was this? Yeah, Alex's idea, I think, was Alex and Yitzi, is that the seeking love here is the unhealthy kind of people pleasing. There are types of people who will cover up the wrongdoings, that their friend does in an effort to make everyone happy, even if that's not productive in the long run. And then the second half is No, that's not the one I wanted. Yitzi's idea, maybe? Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah. So the first half is positive, which is that if your friend does something wrong or has faults, you should be willing to let it slide and not like harp on them. But there is a critical point where if you repeat this behavior enough, so then resentment builds or the problem builds, and that's going to destroy the relationship. So there's a tipping point where like you can't like just do this all the time. Yeah, okay. So the question is, what's the line? Okay, Racheli.
Okay. Very similar, like in this vein of this question, but
Mhm.
I feel like also to go according to your friend's way, you will sometimes possibly have to end up concealing your own. Um, I don't know if it's only like what you want, but maybe it's also like how you think or how you act. And then if
Right.
like what does your way, what does their way really mean? And then not just like at what point is it impractical, but like is there a point when your friendship becomes strong enough that you should just both be yourself?
Right. Okay, that's good. Yeah. So to what extent do you suppress, curtail, or conceal your
Especially because otherwise I feel like it's like the friendship is based on false
right, right.
or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point. So who you are, um, and at what point do you stop? Um, Otherwise, the friendship will be based on deception or will involve harboring like resentment or tension. Yeah, right. Okay, that's good. Tamar.
Okay, I think I don't know if this is a two-part question or two questions, but
Yeah.
my question is like what is the content of the friendship? Because I feel like there are several topics. This I
Yeah.
guess is one
So
topic.
that one he's
Yeah.
actually going to answer in the next paragraph. So we can set that aside for now. Even so it's a
Okay,
good
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because my question, and maybe this is what we're going to answer, is like in terms of the relationship between there seems to be like financial stuff. There's like financial, and then there's also something psychological, even though it's talking about deferring, and then there's having the same will. Like, they seem like different parts that I don't know what the relationship is.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. I think that will become clearer when we see the categories. So it is a good question, and you know it's a good question because the Ram is going to answer it. Yeah, Vanessa.
More of like an observation, but it seems like I think what's like making us all react to the Rambam is this is a lot more active of a process in friendship than we're used to, and like we really it, the way we make friends is a lot more passive these days, at least for me. I don't
Yeah,
know. I won't speak for everyone else. And I think that makes sense because he's working on the word like the kana, like the acquire.
yeah,
But I guess the question more is what and more why would we have assumed otherwise? Like why do we take friendship so passively and like just say, okay, like we'll make
yeah.
friends and like
Okay,
why do we
I like that question. Yeah. So the Rambam and truthfully the Mishnah are is depicts friendship friendship acquisition as a much more active process, proactive, let's say, right? Proactive process than what we're used to. What is the Hava Amina slash like what are we doing? Uh, Usually doing. I guess what are we doing in our typical way of making friends? And is there a problem with that? Yeah, Vanessa.
just to tack on at the end also like what are we missing out on when we don't do this?
And what are we missing out on when we don't do this? Yeah. Okay. All right. I think the only other question I want to ask here is I do want to ask what does either friendship or death mean? Um, Hold on. Yeah. What does either friendship or death mean? And then how hyperbolic is this? Right? Because we know that Chazal do talk in hyperbole, but like, to what extent? Yeah, Vanessa?
Am I allowed to ask a question on Aristotle?
Yeah.
Um, I would assume that the benefit of having a friend is like seeing different perspectives, learning different things, like the dafka the opposite of like having someone just be a mirror of yourself. So
Yeah.
I know we asked what does Aristotle mean, and like we need to go
Yeah.
into that, but like
Is he saying, is he suggesting that your friend is going to be like, you know, Like actually, I'll just ask the way you asked it, which is like, we often think of friendship as, exposing you to different, perspectives and a different um, world. But Aristotle sounds like he's saying the opposite. Yeah, Racheli?
To comment on what Vanessa just asked, I feel like in general you can say that everything is a mirror in some way. Like even like as people, we're a lot more complex, and we might have a more like compact version of like what we understand about ourselves, but friendships bring out others still like who we are. Like it's not
Hmm.
really separate. I don't know.
So are you asking a question or are you answering?
No, I'm just
Oh, okay.
commenting the answer in
Okay,
front of
fine. All right, that's fine. All right, so I'm gonna hold off on that until we do the rest of the Rambam and then the more questions. Okay, so let's go into the rest of the Rambam now with the categories of friendship. Okay, so this is the part that like changed, not changed, that like became the foundation of all my relationships. Okay, so buckle in. All right, so the Hachaverim Shlosha Sukkim. Okay, there are three. Oh, I got to do a preface here, important preface here. Okay, preface. And actually, I think Al Torah recently made available the original Rambam in Arabic. No, he did not. Maybe not for all the Masechtas. Okay, so just remember that the Rambam originally wrote his commentary on the Mishnah in Arabic or Judeo-Arabic. So what we're working from is a Hebrew translation. Okay, so I want you to keep in mind what we're translating as friendship might better be translated as relationship. Okay. And Ibn Tibon, who was the original translator of the Rambam, rendered it ahava, okay, which is love. Okay. So I think just from the fact that you have from ahava or chaver, like an ohev or a chaver, means that it is, how like in on the playground, like, do you like them or do you love them? Like we make a big difference between like and love. I don't either. There's no Judeo-Arabic word that is that specific that is being used here, or it's just a much broader spectrum of relationships. Okay, so um I still want to use the word friendship, okay, because I think that is what we are. I don't think I think relationship is too broad. Like we wouldn't say, acquire for yourself someone you relate to. Like that's not conveying the thing. So friendship is good, but you'll see that it's much broader than the friendship in both directions, meaning that the lower level you wouldn't even necessarily consider a friend, and then the higher level, the highest level, I think you would say, might even be beyond a friend. Okay, here we go. So there are three there are three types of friendship. Okay. Chaver litoeles. Okay. Anyone want to try translating what does litoeles mean?
For help.
Yeah, help is good. I would say help is more like Azer. Yeah, Tamar.
For a purpose?
Okay. So purpose is also good. Yeah, Vanessa.
I was gonna say need, yeah, purpose.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead. These are all fine. I'm gonna go with a friend of utility. Okay. V'chaver hana'a. What is hana'a?
Pleasure maybe or
Okay,
benefit.
pleasure's good. Yeah, Tamar.
Yeah, I was gonna say benefit or enjoy.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna say enjoyment, and the only reason I'm using the word enjoyment other than pleasure is because he uses another word later on. There's a subcategory here, which is ta'anug, and I feel like ta'anug is better for pleasure, and this is for enjoyment. You'll see. V'chaver ledavar na'ale, and a friend for a again, this is all Judeo-Arabic translation to Hebrew, so I've seen different translations for this. I would say for a noble purpose. Okay, so now what are these? Okay, so hachaver letoelis, a friend of utility, hu kagon chaverus shnei hashutfim, is like the friendship of two business partners. The ukachaverus hamelech utzva'o, or like the friendship. I know he says king, but I think better is general, of a general and his army. Okay, because in our society we don't have a our king doesn't. I mean, technically he's a commander in chief, but well, he's not our king, but whatever. There's a commander in chief, but he's not like directly like commanding the troops and his army. Okay. Okay, so that's the first. We'll go through all of them. We'll discuss them. Aval chaver hana hu shnei sugim. But a friend, okay, a friend of utility, sorry, a friend of enjoyment has two subcategories. Chaver ta'anug, a friend of pleasure, v'chaver bitachon, and a friend of security or trust. Okay, now he splits them here. Chaver ta'anug, a friend of pleasure, who kechaverus hazucharin lenekevos b'nisuin, is like the friendship of men and women in marriage, v'kiyota bezeh, and others like it, and similarly and similar. V'chaver bitachon. Now, so far you see he's just giving examples, okay, but now he actually like talks it out, okay. Chaver bitachon, and we'll have to define each of these, okay. A chaver, a friend of security, hu shehela adam chaver shedato somechas alav, is that a person has a friend whom his mind or psyche relies on. She'eno nishmar mimenu lo b'masa v'lo b'dibor, and he doesn't withhold anything from him, neither in deed nor in speech, or I guess neither deed nor speech, I should say, not in deed, neither deed nor speech. Umagale lo kol inyanav, and he reveals to him all his affairs. Hatov mehem v'hara, the good and the bad. Without worrying that any disgrace will come from him. Lo etzlov lo etzlov, not from him, i.e. the friend, nor from anyone else. When a soul has such a high level of trust in another, he will enjoy tremendous nachas. Now, it's hard to translate nachas here. Ordinarily, you could say nachas is pleasure. It was satisfaction, maybe. Satisfaction, that's probably good. Satisfaction in his conversation and friendship. Okay, with this person. Okay, so that's that. Now you're wondering, what could be better than that? Okay, so the highest level is v'chaver l'davar na'aleh, a friend for a noble purpose. Hu shitehei k'mihas shneim u'matras l'inen echad, is that the yearning of both of them is for one thing. V'hu, which is asiyas hatov, the doing of the good, and I'm capitalizing this because I think he means like in an objective sense. And it's interesting he says in passive, and each one desires to be assisted by his friend in order to achieve the good for both of them together. V'zehu hachaver shetziva b'kinyaso. Okay, now here's the punchline. Oops, sorry. This is the friend whom what's his name? Yeshua ben Parachia commands us to acquire. V'hu kagon chaverus harav l'talmid v'hatalmid l'rav. This is like the friendship between a Rav and his Talmid, and a Talmid and his Rav. Okay, so that's the categories. Okay, so it's really 4 categories, but it's the three broad categories and then subcategories. Okay, so what are the questions and problems here? Yeah, Tamar?
This is not really a question, but are we going to revisit the introductory paragraph based on this categorization?
Sure. I mean, when we answer them, do you want to look at it now? I can copy and paste it into the chat.
Not
After
necessarily. I
Yeah.
just feel like especially because he's saying this is the explanation of the Mishnah.
Yeah.
Um,
Hold on. I'm gonna paste
yeah.
this into the chat for a second. I'll paste everything into the chat. So you can go up and down as you please. This is not gonna let me do all these. I'm just gonna do each one at a time. One, and then two, and then three. Okay, so let me convert what you just requested into a question, which is, in light of this categorization, how much of what the Rambam wrote in the first paragraph is talking about all three types, and how much is talking about just the third type? Is that what you were curious about, or you had or was it just general, or you have
Yeah,
something
that's
else?
the main thing I was curious about.
Okay.
I have another question
Yeah.
also. Maybe I'll raise my hand and take.
Okay. Yeah, Vanessa?
I don't know, the marriage part grates me. Why is that not what the point of marriage is? Is to like build something together that's like for a
Okay.
common purpose and whatever. Also
Why
like,
is marriage only 2A and not 2B or 3, right?
and
Yeah.
that might be like product of the time or whatever, but I am a little bit confused because it's the only example he gave of 2A of like what the difference is. Like,
So
what's the
just
modern equivalent? Like
FYI,
just a friend you send memes to, but like don't confide everything in. Like, okay, but
yeah. So just FYI, the first question we're going to answer here is going to be, or the first question we're going to even tackle, okay, is what is the exact definition of each of these types, right? I think that's what we have to do, because he only gives examples for 1A, 1 and then 2A, and he gives a lengthy definition for B, but he doesn't give an example. And for 3, he gives both a definition and an example. So we're going to have to do this first. This is going to be our primary question. Yeah, tomorrow?
I was also wondering, like, what's the relationship? Like, do you have a single relationship that progresses through these stages normally? I mean, it probably wouldn't be all of them, but like
Right.
some of them seem better than others, but like what exactly is the relationship?
Right. So what is, and this is also similar to what Rivka put in the chat here, what is the relationship slash interrelationship between these categories? Okay, in other words, is this a I guess developmental hierarchy where you start with one and progress through the levels, or can is there like cumulative overlap? I don't know if that's how to say it. Overlap, i.e., 3 includes 1 and 2, and 2B includes 2A and 1. Like, is that how you do it? Rivka, I think that's what you were getting at, right, with the question? Yeah. Yeah, Vanessa? No?
that was my question.
Okay. What else? I think there's another. Yeah, I think there's another relation. Yeah, Vanessa?
The question of like what's the good, like what constitutes that noble purpose and
Yeah, so that is a good question. I think that'll be covered or not covered in 7. In other words, either we have to answer that, or the Rambam is not addressing that, and he's assuming that if you're learning Torah and Pirkei Avos, then you are working on understanding what the good is, like, in a broader way than this Mishnah. Like, this Mishnah is not teaching you what the good is, right? So, like, look at, Torah.
no, but like is that the answer? Is like are we talking about is the good just the noble pursuit of stuff like Torah, or are we talking about like
Right.
something
So
more
that's why
abstract?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
In other words, like, I think we
see what you're
have to
saying.
narrow it down in order to be able to define it, but we're not the onus is not on the Rambam through this or on Pirkei
Okay.
Avos to convey the full scope of what the good is. We just need to know what he's referring to, like what the reference is. Yeah. Yeah, tomorrow.
I think I had two questions, but I maybe forgot one of them. Oh, one of them was like, is this exhaustive? And my other question was like, what is the unifying category that this is examples of? Can we define that a little bit more?
Yeah. I'm gonna put this into this question because I think this will be answered here. What is the unified category that all these fall under? Okay, one question which is similar to question 10 is, are these are these relationships necessarily bilateral? I don't know if that's the best way to say it, but I'll explain what I mean. Like, in other words, like, do both of you have to be on the same page? Okay, or can you relate to a person as your level 3 friendship, and they only relate to you as a level 1, you know, or 2A and 2B, right? Yeah, Tamar?
I mean, I think we're gonna have to get this to define number three, but how is that, in what sense is that a friendship?
Yeah. And what would the implications be for calling this a friendship? Yeah. Yeah, Vanessa?
This might be our question number 7. So if you don't want to go into it, just stop me. But
Yeah.
on question number 1 specifically, I think when we first read it, I was like, oh, okay, coworkers, and I didn't think about it. But reading it, I'm like, no, actually, I don't. Reading it, I was like, oh, okay, like that coworker you like and you eat lunch with at work and like you get along, but like you're not real friends, you're coworker friends. But that's not really what I think it's talking about. Even like your boss would fall under this, which is a totally different dynamic.
Yeah.
So what exactly are we qualifying? How are we qualifying between number 1 and like a guy you see on the street? Like what,
Right.
or
Okay,
like, a
that's a good
bus
question also.
driver.
So what is, I guess you're asking two questions, which is, or a question from two angles, which is like, you know, let me say this. What what are the upper and lower thresholds? I always forget if threshold has two H's. I don't think it does. Yeah, okay. Thresholds for for the difference between level 1 and a stranger, right? Or let's say a non-friend, and level 1 to level 2A, right? Like that's another thing also, is like if you have a coworker who you enjoy hanging out with, but you are work friends, I mean, is that a friendship of pleasure or is that a friendship of utility? Yeah. Okay. So let's now attempt to answer question 7 before we answer these other ones. Okay. So this is going to be our analysis. So let's say like, let's say working definitions of the 3 levels. Okay. So what would you say they are?
Maybe.
Yeah, Vanessa?
I think I might be working on the assumption that each of these nests into a larger, like into more specific dolls, like a matryoshka. The first one being you're you have to interact for some common purpose. So like I'm gonna work better with examples. So like you sitting on a bus and the bus driver is driving you, that's
Yeah.
not number 1 because
Yeah.
he doesn't need you for anything, whether you're on the bus or not, that doesn't matter to him.
Okay.
Maybe there's a question of like different lateral whatever, but working on something together. Like if you're building a house, even if you're not like talking to the guy, even if you guys speak different languages, if you're able to like articulate like, hey, I need that brick to go there,
Yeah.
there's still a like intermingling and like you need some base communication and like what's the word? Cooperation.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
I
that's
think
the
that's a good
operative word.
description. Yeah, I think that's a good description. Anyone else want to venture a definition or description here? Yes, Mar?
Um, this is also, I guess, the boundary between one and not a friend, but maybe you
Yeah.
need like a common, I'm gonna say goodwill is not exactly what I mean, but like you have to be at least a little bit invested in the other person, which would happen in a business partner, but not in just
Right.
like any interaction.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, right. That's a good way to differentiate it from a non-friend. Or you know what we would call a non-friend here? A comrade, in the sense of V'havta l're'acha. That's my favorite translation of re'acha, even though it has a Soviet undertones, or communist, but like because V'havta l're'acha kamocha is talking about all of Klal Yisrael. And it's not re'acha, like it's not that you're social friends, it's that they are, a member of the same, like, you know people, right? Associate maybe is a better thing. The difference between a level 1 friend and an associate, or a stranger. I mean, I don't think it's a question with stranger, but yeah. So I'm going to give you a working definition, okay, which I think encompasses what both of you are saying, but you'll tell me if it doesn't, okay? Is the relationship is entirely contingent on a some tangible mutual benefit. Okay. So my example of this, I mean, let's for each of these, let's do more examples, okay? Um, examples. So my go-to example for this, I don't know why, and tomorrow I don't know if you will remember this from when you were more active on Facebook or if Vanessa has seen this, is my old barber Sal. Okay, so I had a barber in the Five Towns named Sal, and he was best barber I've ever had. I got my haircut from him for like I don't know, like over a decade, and I go get my haircut and like when I'm getting my haircut, like we talk, you know, and then but beyond that, there's no relationship whatsoever. And what happened, the reason why I think this stands out is like I was traumatized because one day I went to get a haircut from Sal and his partner said, "Oh, he retired and moved to Florida," you know? And like I had this feeling of like, and he didn't tell me, but then I realized like, no, it's just I hadn't gotten a haircut in a while. Like maybe it was like after the summer, I think, and I'd been in Seattle, you know, and like I realized like I have no relationship with Sal other than my haircut. But like, now here's the thing: is like I'm giving an example where I am on friendly terms with him, and it is a question to me whether the Rambam would say. I do think that the Rambam is saying that you do need some sort of um camaraderie with the person. Like when you go through the toll booth and you give money to the person and they give you your pass, I don't think that's a friendship, even though you're getting utility out of each other. Think in others, but I think that the measure of this friendship is the exchange of utility, and without that utility, then the relationship doesn't exist. Okay, that's my working definition. Any thoughts on that? And here's another example. Okay, again, I'll give you two other examples. The friendly, the friendly Jamaican crossing guard. Okay, so there is on Beach Ninth and Dinsmore, there was this very friendly Jamaican woman. I think she was Jamaican. It could be some other Caribbean place, but and I walk to and from yeshiva a lot, like sometimes like 3 times a day, and she was the crossing guard for all the kids, and every time I would go there, we would make conversation, and like, and she would get to know like all the Jewish phrases and stuff like that, not from me, but from other people, and then she got transferred down the block, so I never see her anymore, and I'm like, like she was a pleasant part of my day, and like, but the thing is like it was an exchange. I was the pedestrian and she was the pedestrian crossing guard, and like if it weren't for that role, that'd be it. Like there's no relationship, and like it's over after that, Yeah, Rachel?
I was thinking of it more in terms of like a common goal, maybe like both the business partners have the same goal, and also in a war, like the general and his people beneath him have the same goal
Yeah.
of winning. I feel like maybe in your examples, there's not like you're benefiting from them or getting something, but not necessarily vice versa. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, but they are also doing their job,
Right. So you're
right?
saying if you're just engaged in some sort of like share.
Yeah, I think so. And the part of my definition that I'm most uncertain about is tangible. What I mean by tangible is I'm gonna say like maybe I don't want to call it physical or monetary, but like I feel like that's the threshold there. Um, or like functional. I don't know. What's the word for jobby? Like occupational? Yeah. Um, yeah. Okay. So I feel like it has to have some sort of threshold like that. And arguably, even someone who, let's say, volunteers in a soup kitchen, you know, I think that the person who's getting soup from them, they're getting the benefit. And even though it's a volunteer work, I think that still fits into this category because there's some tangible exchange, going on. Maybe exchange is better, or exchange. Yeah, Vanessa?
I agree with Racheli, and I think where I'm chafing against your definitional perception of this is the upper limit, and I think that's what we have to figure out is where does one stop and two A
Right.
begin?
Right.
I don't agree that your examples fit in one the way I'm perceiving of it. Like, imagine if your barber was mute you guys could communicate. Like all you have to say was like, he can hear you fine. Like I'll say, okay,
Yeah.
I need to cut and blow out, and he
Yeah.
does it. I think that's a mutually cooperative thing where like my job is to sit in a chair and be still and like not kick him. I don't know, like, act like a normal like
Yeah.
haircut, not patient, what's the word, client.
Yeah.
And he has to cut my hair and whatever and do the right thing.
Yeah.
That's mutually beneficial. When you start talking and you're getting the pleasure of like the
Yeah. Yeah.
conversation, like
That's why I said I didn't put this in words. I'll put it in words though. There is a friendship. There is a camaraderie. I use the word camaraderie, right? I don't know how to spell camaraderie. Camaraderie. Okay. Um, but the relationship is entirely dependent on some tangible uh um mutual benefit or exchange. So the example, so I think it's telling what the Rambam does not give as an example. He does not say the merchant at the store that you buy your produce from. Now again, maybe for us, you could say that, but like there is both a business partnership or a general in his army, there is one-on-one lasting interactions, and they do form a certain, friendship. Like we would say, not friendship,
yeah,
dynamic, social
but
thing.
I don't think it's the same thing. I think two business partners, like, yeah, you can have camaraderie. Like, I don't disagree with that part. I think you can have camaraderie, but I think the relationship that's being highlighted is the working together, the cooperation that you're doing in order to achieve some purpose, rather than like the focus being on the pleasure of that camaraderie. Like, I think when you go into 2A, like, yeah, you get married. I think maybe that's why he meant pulled into men and women getting married as the example of 2A. Yeah, like you are doing that for a certain purpose. You need to cooperate in order to build a home and have children, and da 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 da. But you enjoy each other. Like there is a
Okay,
relationship
so
there, and like I don't
just
know.
we'll define them more specifically in a second, but I think that's hold on a second, contingent on the utility. I'm gonna just i.e. Okay, so here the relationship is contingent on the enjoyment. Okay, that's here, and the difference. This is why I'm using this as a difference. Is there are coworkers who, when you stop working together, that is it. Okay, you don't continue. But if you enjoy their company, you may then hang out together, and you're no longer in working. Now you're in level two. For example, again, this happened to me. Tomorrow, when you were at Shalhevet, was Ilona there yet, or coach, as they say?
Yeah, sure. Well, I
Yeah.
think I didn't really know her, but yeah.
Okay, fine. So she was really, really, popular among all the students and stuff. When I went to I stopped by Hafter this week, and I ran into her, and like this is a coworker that I work at with at Shalhevet, and like we talked all the time in school, but then the school closed, no conversation, conversation, no relationship at all. It's like that's an example in my mind. Yeah, I'll go with tomorrow, and then let's define 2A and 2B.
Um, so can you spell out again the difference between one and one sec. Um, sorry about
That's okay.
that. Between one and nothing, or not a category of friendship, is that there is. I think that's the existence of the camaraderie, right? There is a feeling of a relationship.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to spell it out.
As opposed to no feeling, or as opposed to a raw exchange, like again, maybe another example is like, I'm just thinking of examples of my recent history. You go to the movies, you know, you show your ticket and they let you in. Oh, friendship. No, it's not a friendship. There's no feelings whatsoever. And yeah, is there utility? Yes, but it's not a friendship. Okay. I think it's gonna get clearer when we go into 2A and 2B. Okay. So 2A. So let's address Vanessa's question. Okay, why do you think he says the friendship of men and women in marriage and other similar things? So what is he including in other similar things, and then why is he use a friendship of men and women in marriage as an example? Yeah, Racheli?
I just want to like add to the question because I feel
Yeah.
like marriage could be either category one technically, like if you're marrying purely for utility, especially in like the past.
Yeah,
Or it could be category 3 or
right.
2B because
Yes.
maybe you both, yeah.
Okay,
So
so what must you say about what he means in his example of marriage?
where it doesn't reach the level of
Yes,
2,
but why does he give that as the example?
because it's not, you don't get married contingent on those things, maybe. I don't know. Like people, I'm confused. I don't know.
You know what I'm asking though? I'm saying given the fact you just pointed out, which I agree with you, that marriage could fall into either of the three categories. So why does the Rambam put it here instead of the other places?
Maybe it's like the least you need for a marriage to function. Like you need there to be that basis, but it doesn't necessarily have to reach 2B or 3. I don't
Okay,
know.
I hear that. I have a slightly different answer. I think my answer is simpler, but anyone have a different answer? Do we want to actually maybe we want to define 2A and 2B first before we explain why this is the example? Okay, so I'm going to say it like this, okay? 2A is a relationship that is contingent on getting pleasure from them, okay? And 2B is the relationship is contingent on getting pleasure from them, and the relationship is contingent on getting the aforementioned satisfaction from them. Okay, so having said that, okay, why do you think the Rambam gives the friendship between men and women in marriage and other similar things as examples, and what is he including in all similar things? I think it's a very simple answer. Maybe too simple for you to see. Okay, I think the answer is very simple. This is what most friendships in humanity are. Okay, and this is what most relationships between men and women are. Okay, so I think if you look at many of your friends, okay, what makes you friends? The fact that you enjoy each other's company, okay, that your personalities get along. And if you no longer enjoy their company or their personality changes, you stop being friends. Okay. And when Vanessa was saying earlier about people who like just automatically become friends, that's what's going on there, right? Is that you happen to like being around this person and they like being around you and you get pleasure out of their company, you know? And it could start off with something that is what do you call that is much more specific. Like you might like the same sports team or listen to the same music, or you might be coworkers and starts off as something that is a utility or just happenstance or proximity. I was watching an interview with the Stranger Things actors, and they were talking about how when they're 10 years old, and everyone always asks them in these things, like, what do you guys think of each other? And the actor who plays Dustin said, like, when you're a kid, like becoming friends is as easy as like, oh, you want to be my friend, and then you just hang out together, and then like it become you become friends, right? Okay. Now, speaking about men and women, I mean, I got news for you. You might have this Jewish idea of marriage, but the vast majority of relationships between men and women in the world are because they like each other, or because they're attracted to each other, or because of the sexual relationship with each other. It's pleasure based. Okay. Pleasure, physical pleasure, psychological pleasure, pleasure of company. It's dependent on pleasure. And when the pleasure stops, then the relationship is in danger. Now, one question we didn't ask, by the way, is why does the Rambam make a subcategory for 2A and 2B, right? Why are they not just examples of pleasure? Or why is this not, why doesn't he create a fourth category? Yeah, really?
I guess you could say the difference between 2 and 2A and 2B is like the kind of satisfaction that you get from the relationship is a very different quality. Like,
Right.
in the first one, it seems like it's just like happiness, kind of like you share like good times and good things. And then the
Yeah.
second one, it's like you can share anything, whether it's, you know, something good about yourself or bad about yourself, and you gain like a satisfaction out of being able to be yourself in front of someone else. It's a
Okay.
much deeper kind.
Okay, good. And I think that is the answer to your question from before. Okay, so this is this is also dependent on a kind of enjoyment, but it's a much deeper satisfaction. Satisfaction, one in which you as a person feel accepted, right? Feel totally accepted. Totally accepted. And I don't know if you want to put it in terms of like ego, because I do think that there are types of 2A relationships that are based on ego. And ego makes it sound like bad, but I think even descriptively or experientially, then I think that you can agree that like, I don't know where you're all at in your friendships, but like, hopefully everyone has at least one friendship of this nature, and you feel that this is different. Now, for some people are very cavalier with the use of the term best friend, but like I use the term best friend. I have several best friends, but that's the kind of relationship that I'm talking about when I say best friend, and it feels completely different than these other kinds of friendships. So that's good enough for me. I mean, maybe we could get more precise, but yeah, Vanessa.
I like that you brought up ego because I think what separates three, like I'm gonna say three and four, but I know 2B and three
Yeah.
is to get three the way he was describing it before, like all that stuff that was like kind of grading, like, oh,
Wait,
like
sorry, no, can you actually use the same classification as him? It's going to really confuse me if you say three.
I'm sorry, I thought I did. No,
Oh,
I meant
did
three. I am
Oh,
talking
you
about
meant three.
three.
Okay, okay, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I am jumping ahead. I apologize for that,
Okay.
but I am talking about three. Um, when in the Rambam's introduction to this, when he's talking about like spending money and like ingratiating yourself to the person and like all that, like we would say that as grading, but if we're applying that specifically to this to number three, to like that type of friend,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense because that's where your ego gets nullified. Like you feel secure enough to like nullify the ego, not your id, like it's not like nullifying yourself, but nullifying the ego
Yeah.
enough that you can actually like let that super ego, if you want to keep using the Freudian terms. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
a big Freud person, but to let that super
Okay,
ego
so
like
since you're talking about three, let's talk about three. Okay, let's
okay.
not talk around it. So, what's the definition of three then? Now, by the
Contingent
way,
on each
those of you
other.
who know Pirkei Avos, there is another mishnah that I think references this. Um, I don't know if that's a clue. Okay, that's closer. You want to each transcend yourselves, not just self-actualize. Yeah, Tamar?
Just in the framework of like the relationships being contingent on things,
Yeah, that's what I'm
it's
looking
like
for. Yeah.
it's kind of like the only thing it's contingent on is just like who you are in the most basic way. Like,
Yeah.
there isn't
Okay.
like something external that could change.
Okay, that's good. Let me show you the mishnah that I have in mind. Now, I could have sworn that I saw someone, not this year, but I saw someone make this explanation, sorry, this connection explicitly. Maybe the Rambam does actually, now that I think about it. We'll find out in a moment. Where is the Rambam? Rambam. Okay. This is a mishnah. I'll copy and paste it here. So let's see here. Avos, oops, sorry. Avos. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I figured like this is one that people know because like especially like I don't know. I feel like when people want to look and say, what does Judaism think about love? Like this is you're gonna have to get to this one. Oops, sorry. Hold on. Okay. So this is too big. Okay. This is Avos 5:16. Okay. So kol ava shehi tluya b'davar, any love that is contingent on something. Batal davar batela ava. If the thing is nullified, the love is nullified. V'she'ena tuli b'davar, and if it's not contingent on contingent on something, eina b'tela lam, it will never be nullified. Okay. Ezo hi ava tuli b'davar. What is a love that is contingent on something? Ze zo avas Amnon v'Tamar. This is the love of Amnon and Tamar. Now, does anyone want to just summarize what happened there? Yeah, Vanessa?
For a long story short, he raped her and then hated her.
Yep. Okay, and what was the relationship?
I should know this. I just read it and I don't remember. I'm sorry. I like read it in like
Yeah,
the
Tamar?
commentaries of like the Yehuda Tamar thing, not like
Yeah.
on its own.
Yeah, Tamar?
They were biologically half siblings.
Yeah, they were biologically half siblings. Okay, and Amnon loved Tamar, then raped her, then hated her. Right? Yeah. Okay. Racheli says in the chat, the translation I know from As a Driven Leaf, the love which is founded on earthly circumstance vanishes with the circumstance. That love which is beyond circumstance abides forever. Yeah, it's already interpretation, but yeah, it is poetic. And then that's the love of Amnon and Tamar. All right. So he loved her, but it was clearly for either the sexual pleasure or the forbidden pleasure or whatever it was he was trying to get. I haven't learned the story. Okay, then the She'ena Tali B'davar, what is a love that is not contingent on anything? Zo avas David v'Yehonasan. This is the love of David and Yehonasan. Okay, and what's the, I guess, not the claim to fame, but like what's the most famous expression of that love? You know, like the demonstration of how far the love went.
I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly, but isn't Yonasan supposed to be the king? He's
Yes.
Shaul's son, and then David becomes king, and they remain
Right.
friends.
And not only that, but Yehonasan was going against who?
His father.
Yeah, Yehonasan was Shaul's son, and was destined to be king, but Yehonasan gave that up and rebelled against his father, in order for David to become king. Okay, so that's that. So I think this is related. Let me just see if the Rambam says anything here. Let's see here. So he says, shiur elu devarim hu pirusham. I'll just copy and paste this. I did not plan to go into this. You know what we're going to do? We're not going to do Rabbeinu Yonah tonight. Let's save for the Rambam. Rambam. So this is the Rambam here. We're not in any rush. Okay, Rambam. Okay, shiur elu hadavarim hu pirusham. I don't know what that means. I mean, literally the shiur, literally the measure of these words is their explanation. Okay. Kach. So he says, as such. Kol ava shi tuli b'davar batel. Now there's something that's going on with the kudos here. Batel. That's how our mishnah says it. Batal hadavar u batla ava. V'she'en tuli b'davar ena batel olam. Okay, I don't know why he's like restating the mishnah. I'm gonna skip over that part for now. Ve'ata yodea she'elu asibos hagashmios kulan. All right, there's support from the Rambam for what you're saying, Racheli. You know that these physical causes, yibtelu, yivatlu, v'yisuru, will be negated and will end. Okay, will be removed. Yischayev sur hamischadish b'sur sibaso, and the effect will depart with the departure of its cause. Lefikach, therefore, im haisa sibas ha'ava inyan eloki, if the cause of the love is something divine, v'hu hamada ha'amiti, which is true knowledge, hare osa ha'ava efshar sura le'olam, that love will never depart forever. Because its cause necessarily exists. Okay, so he doesn't explicitly reference our our Mishnah, but I do think it's related here. Okay, so let's go back. And I think Tamar gave a good example or a good definition of this. Okay, Tamar, do you remember how you said it? Or if you don't have to be held to that, but like how do we want to because I think we could agree that David Yehonasan was this category, right? It's clearly not utility, because if it's utility, then Yehonasan gets the malchus, and it's not just enjoyment and pleasure. Even though he was a confidant, right? Yehonasan and David were confidants. They literally, or at least David was confident in Yehonasan that his life depended on him, and I think Yehonasan also was confidant in David. Okay, but it was higher than that. So what's the relationship? How do we want to characterize the relationship here? Tamar says something about like who you are, but I feel like we need to incorporate the statement like ledavar na'aleh for something exalted or something noble. So let's just say as working definition here. Yeah, Tamar?
I was going to say it's objective.
Yeah, objective is good. I do like your impulse from before of trying to put it in terms of the contingency. So I either want to say the relationship is contingent only on the objective good. That's kind of putting together two things that you said. The objective good, or alternatively, not contingent on anything physical, okay, or temporal. All right. And the definition would be, like he said, each friend helps the other to achieve the good for both of them. Okay. Now, he says the example of this is a Rav and his Talmud, and a Talmud is his Rav. Now, unfortunately, unlike what he says about men and women here, where he's talking about the majority, I don't think this is talking about the majority of like every person in their shul Rav has this relationship. Like, no, that's not the case. Not talking about every person in their high school Rebbe, but like, and even like I have many rabbis, but like, my relationship with Rabbi Moskowitz was like this. And even my rabbis who I learn a lot from and as teachers, not all of them are like this, at least I'm not sure. Like, in other words, I do think that, well, I guess this is up for debate here, right? In other words, you can get objective good from someone, but I still am going with my my intuition from before that there has to be an actual like relationship where maybe this is where we should answer tomorrow's question about what is the general category that these three things are all examples of. In other words, so like let's just try this then. Hold on. A unified concept of friendship or friend in light of all these, of all three. All right, so are we saying, yeah, Vanessa?
Like someone you cooperate with for some purpose. It's super vague, but
Okay, actually, no, that's actually good. I'll tell you, like, okay, let's put it this way. A hold on, I had it. See, I do want to capture the fact that there is some sort of like relationship there, but I do want to say it has something to do with a relationship for the purpose of attaining a good. Okay. And then the question is, what kind of good? Is it like physical, monetary good? Is it psychological good of pleasure or dissatisfaction? Or is it objective good? Right? So it's like either physical / monetary, or psychological, whether pleasure or security, or objective. Yeah, Tamar?
I don't know if this is not the right emphasis, but I feel like also in terms of like, okay, I don't know if it's really possible to define relationship completely, but I think that there is an experience in how people are constructed. There's an experience of having a relationship with someone that I'm not exactly trying to define.
Yes,
That I think
that's what I was trying to get
always
at here
has to
also.
be in the box. Like if it's not that experience that I don't know how to define, then it's not this. I'm saying he is talking about that experience that we all know about.
Yes, correct. Yeah. He's not excluding that. And that's why like this is not encompassing someone who you just have an exchange with of some sort, you know? Like for example, here's a good example of this. I think if you go to a shiur, okay, and you hear an idea that changes your life, okay, that does not mean that that person is your chaver l'davar na'ala, because there's no enduring experience of a relationship there. Now, let me just comment here. Would you say that this has to be bilateral, or could you have people where you are relating to this person, you're getting a level 3 benefit, but they're only getting a level 1, or like 2A and 2B? Like, what would you say here? Yeah, Racheli?
Okay, I know already that like parents and children aren't like friends
That's a good
necessarily,
example. Yeah.
but I think especially the younger a child is, like they might have a more utilitarian or pleasure-based relationship with their parent, and
Yeah.
then the parent has like the desire for their objective good, and yeah.
Okay, good. All right, I think that's a great example, right? That's clearly not a parallel relationship, and it's one that actually changes throughout their the aging of both of them, right? Because when they start when it's a baby, it's purely utilitarian that way. Then the parent is out for the objective good. Then hopefully, not everyone's so lucky. There is an enjoyment, right? And look, most parents hope to get enjoyment out of their kids, and most kids hope to get enjoyment, like having a pleasant relationship with their parents, right? Now, in some cases, there is a relationship of trust that the kid trusts the parent totally. I don't think it's healthy if it goes the other way, right? Where the parent like opens up and like reveals all their secrets. I don't think that's like a good thing. And then it could progress to a non-egalitarian relationship for the good, where they're both working to help each other develop, but within their respective roles. In other words, and again, same thing with a Rav and a Talmud, and a Talmud and a Rav. I think it's telling that the Rambam lists both of those. He does not say like the relationship between from men to women and women to men. Why? Because it's the same thing. But from a Rav to a Talmud and a Talmud to a Rav is very different, but they're both for the objective good. Okay. So I think those are, I do think, or here's another example. All right. You might have a 2B relationship with your therapist, and you open up and tell them everything, but their relationship to you is a utilitarian one, right? You stop paying them, it's over, right? So like, and they might even like, genuinely have a relationship with you while you're their client, but it does not go beyond that, and they don't open up to you, right? Yeah, Vanessa?
Actually, now that I'm looking through each of the examples he gave, I think all of them do point to some imbalance, just like, and I think like it might have been on purpose. You said the men and women one was the same, but I don't, to the point where it's a bit utilitarian, like you need each other for different things. Like
That's
the
true
woman,
also. Yeah, it's not
like
exactly the same. Yeah.
it's not exactly the same, right? Like
Right.
if we're talking purely biologically, like
Yeah,
a
and
woman
the
can
truth
bear a
is,
child. Yeah, whatever.
yeah,
And
and
then
true, the same thing with the general in his army, right? Like
yeah.
it's not, he's responsible for all of their lives, and like and he's commanding them, and they, whatever. Yeah. So I don't mean to. Let me put it this way: I'm not going to make a big deal about the fact that he does not say it both ways for the men and the women, and for the general in his army. I do think it's significant that he says the Rav and his Talmud and the Talmud and his Rav, because I think that is acknowledging that there is a distinct like categorical difference in the relationship about how they supply each other with the objective good. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Vanessa.
Sorry, just I
No,
don't
go
think
ahead.
you can have a level 3 friendship if you're not on the same page. I think with the other relationships, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be approaching it from the same angle. I think with number 3, you do. I think you have to be aligned, and I think that's why he like named it like in order to achieve the good, and that's like why he elaborates.
Well, I don't know,
No?
because and maybe I'm misunderstanding you, but didn't Racheli just give an example of a parent is doing this for their kid for the objective good, but the kid doesn't have is on a level 1 relationship, or a high school teacher, I'm trying to provide the objective good for my students. Most of them are not interested in the objective good, so like
Okay,
they
and
just
that
want
might be
their
your question of what the objective good is, because I'm still confused on
yeah,
what we're
right.
talking about.
Right. Okay. So I think this is a good point to now start looking through our list of questions and seeing which ones we have and have not answered. Okay. So we've done this. Okay. See above. For the exact definition of each one. And I think we've done a pretty good job of saying the unified category and what the upper and lower thresholds are, right? At least working definitions. Okay. So I think we're good with that. All right. So there is, I'm just gonna make this, I don't want everything yellow here. Let me just make this cross out. Okay. In light of this categorization, how much of what the Rambam wrote in paragraph 1 is talking about all three? All right, we'll go to that in a second. Okay, why is marriage only 2A and not 2B or 2 or 3? So truthfully, it can be all of them. And really, I can't say objectively that it should be, because I don't know if all marriages are like cut out for that. Like look, you have cases. Again, I was just posting on Facebook about how I saw an interview with Dick Van Dyke, who I think today turned 100. And his wife is 46 years younger than he is, and it seems like they're in love, like they and like they've been married for a long time and like they enjoy each other's company. But got news for her, at a certain point, he is gonna like not be able to take care of himself anymore, and like it's gonna be like I don't think he's gonna be providing her with the same whatever, like I don't know. But anyway, why did I bring that up? Because because in a marriage, I think there are cases where like there are marriages of utility. There are marriages where your spouse is not capable of providing the objective good, because what if they're not interested in Torah and mitzvos or learning, and you really are, that happens sometimes. It's unfortunate, but that does happen, or let's say like, there are models of relationships where opening up and confiding in your spouse is not how the relationship works. I mean, I don't know this for sure. I never met my great grandparents, but I don't think it was that kind of relationship. From what I hear, I don't think they were like pouring out each other's hearts, because I don't think they pour out their hearts to anyone, So like, I think it's very easy to get all romanticized and say like, oh, everyone should be like Ezer Kenegdo, like objective good, or like you should have trust. No, that's not realistic. Like it's if you can get it, great, but like that's not like a default expectation for everyone. Yeah, Rachel?
Just a question. I don't think we asked this, but actually, never mind. I just realized I was going to ask if Rambam's talking about like only Jewish people, but he is commenting on Pirkei Avos, so.
Oh no. So the truth is that Rambam, I think, gets these three categories from Aristotle. Okay.
So they're really just like human
Yeah.
categories.
I think these are human categories. Now, you might have humans who define the objective good differently. Okay.
Right.
But yeah, I think there's human categories. Okay, so I think we answered question. Oops, went too far. Oh, I did not read. I have this commentary review of Shelad. I just want to read it really quickly in the English. On acquire a friend for yourself, see what we wrote regarding the types of friendship in the introductions. In light of what is stated there, it should be understood that there is no contradiction between what the Rambam writes at the end of his remarks. This is the friend whom one is commanded to acquire. That is a friend of excellence. He translates it as a friend of excellence, not for that's the third category. And what he writes at the outset, so that all his affairs may be set right through him. As they said, either companionship or death, which refers to also to friendships of security, as is evident from Talmudic sources of the saying. Okay, so in other words, either friendship or death apparently does refer to 2B. Okay, and Rav Shilad is saying there's not a contradiction. Why? This is because the ideal friend of excellence is one who also provides security and sometimes also benefit and the like. Okay, so that's consistent with what we said, is that, look, in many friendships of 3, there will be some confiding. I mean, again, with the Rav and the Talmud, hopefully it goes the other way, that the Talmud confides in the Rav or the child and the parent. Okay, and hopefully you enjoy each other's company, right? I mean, it's not like it's mutually exclusive. And then he says, this is because the ideal friend of excellence is also one who provides security and sometimes also benefit and the like. The division here is an abstract typological division, which isolates the types in order to define them precisely. So there's overlap. That's consistent with what we said. Aristotle's statement constitutes kind of unwitting commentary on the verse, V'ahavta l'recha kamocha, that is, love your fellow as yourself. So that's Aristotelian version. We've also noted in the instructions that the Rambam here departed from his usual practice of not mentioning in his Talmudic works the names of the sages of the nations of the world. Okay, fine. That's just a side point. Okay. So we've answered this. 10, why does the Rambam make a subcategory for 2A and 2B? Sorry, I didn't say this here. So the answer is marriage can fall out in any of these categories, but statistically, it's going to be 2A, right? Because most people marry based on company, pleasure, attraction. That's just the reality. Okay. 10, why does the Rambam make a subcategory for 2A and 2B? Why are they not just examples of pleasure? Or why doesn't he create a fourth category? So we answer this, which is that they're both enjoyment, but vastly different levels. Okay. I also want to say one thing also, like, 2A is somewhat, no, I don't want to go that far. I was going to say 2A is a little bit more utilitarian than 2B. But I don't want to say that. Okay. 11, what is the relationship between these categories? Is this a developmental hierarchy where you start with one and progress to all levels? Is there cumulative overlap? So we're not saying this is developmental, right? You don't have to be a friend of utility before you're a friend of pleasure. You don't even have to be a friend of pleasure before you're a friend for the good. Like it's just independent levels of relationship. So it's not. Hold on, I keep on. Okay, it's not sequential or developmental. You can move up or down in the hierarchies, but not. But you can also start anywhere. Okay. Again, even Rav and a Talmud, you don't need to start by opening up to the Rav. Like you could start by just learning, and then eventually like you trust him to ask for advice or whatever. Okay, are these relationships necessarily bilateral? So we answer that is no. The same relationship can be one thing for one person and another thing for another. Okay, now we are ready to move on to question 8, which is the relation between this and above. So now let's go to our questions on the first paragraph here. Okay, regarding the Rambam strategies for cultivating friendships, what is the proper place for these strategies and how do we square this with a normal or modern way of making friends? Okay, so I think we can answer this now. Yeah, Racheli?
Maybe the normal way of making friends is just referring to not this kind of friend, like the friendship of pleasure, benefit, psychologically, you'll be yourself and find out who else is like you or whatever. But when you're talking about a friendship which is seeking, the ultimate common good, then you should use Rambam's strategies.
Okay, good. So I think that's half of it. Okay, you really should go out of your way to cultivate that friendship, even at a cost, and even if it requires, again, I don't know the better way to say this, suppressing parts of yourself until that friendship is solidified. Okay. And now just to launch the question here, isn't that unhealthy? I don't know if that's what you wanted to address tomorrow or if you had a different point or question.
My question is kind of like, why are these appropriate steps for this friendships?
Okay, so maybe we need to answer question 2 for that.
Wait, can I also?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, why would those steps be necessary?
Well, he's not saying necessary. He's saying if they are necessary, then you should do it.
But like, in what case would they be necessary?
Well, let's say you don't have a Rav, and the only way to
Right.
get a Rav is to pay to go to a shiur,
Okay.
right? Or pay to go to school, right?
Because I'm thinking of like the suppress yourself, like, I don't know.
Yeah, honestly, you should not just be casually yourself
Right,
with
I
the
hear
Rav,
that.
and the Rav should not just be casually himself with his students. You do have to conduct yourself according to the role that is dictated by that, and then you can open up and be more yourself as it goes on. But like, it's not just a free for all where you're like, I'm just being myself, and if they accept me, fine, and if not, not. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's partially an answer to this question. Yeah. Anyone want to answer this? All right, Rivka disagrees. Okay, so let me let me I'm gonna give my answer to this, and then I'm gonna take Tamar and Vanessa, and then we'll do Rivka's disagreement here. So isn't that healthy? Is presumably you're only going to cultivate a relationship for the good with someone who is interested in the good for you. Okay. So like it's possible for that person to misjudge or err, but like you know the standard you're caring about here is the objective good. And I think for that reason is that like, it'll be clear when that's not working out. Okay, so for example, let's say you are learning from a Rav who is very mean. Okay, and let's say they have like good knowledge to offer you, but like they're very, very like it says in Pirkei Avos, ein hakaptan lomed, melamed, right? Someone who's like pedantic, like picky, whatever word you want to use for kaptan, like is can't teach, is not a good teacher, right? So say you're trying to learn, and so you're very careful to like not say anything that is going to get you yelled at or whatever. But then at a certain point, you realize like, oh, I'm just walking on eggshells, and this guy's just yelling at me wherever I do. I don't want to have a relationship with this person, Vanessa saying, I'm getting confused on when a Rav counts as a friend or as a Rav. Oh, you mean with the other clause in the Mishnah? Yeah, hold off on that other clause for a second. I don't want to go back into that quite yet. I want to make sure we get this first. Or here's another example is that let's say you have someone who is a tzaddik, okay? And you want to cultivate, and let's say they're a peer, and you want to cultivate a relationship with that person. Now, you might start off by like, all right, I'm just making an example here. Okay. Let's say you're someone who is like, I don't know, like likes partying. Okay. But you also want to have a good friend who you can like work on self-improvement for. Right. And let's say they're very religious and they don't like partying. Right. So you may not. So if this was a friendship of pleasure, you might try to like get them involved in your hobbies and stuff like that. Right. But here you have an objective is you want to befriend this person because you know they're a good influence on you. Okay. And it would be the right thing to do if they see that you're this party animal, they might not want to cultivate their relationship with you. Now, so what you might do is you might downplay that part of yourself until you start to form an actual relationship. Then you introduce that part of yourself and say, hey, by the way, like I do like to party, and like I also like to learn B'chavrusa, and like this is I'm trying to improve. And but because there's someone who's actually interested in your good, they're not going to like reject you for that. So that's what I'm trying to say here is that I think the fact that this relationship revolves around the good sets an objective standard that I think can prevent types of unhealthy dynamics or abuses of relationships, either because that person won't do that to you, or you'll know that you're not getting the objective good out of this. Okay. That's as clear as I can get it for now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, sorry, just keep on talking about getting a Rav, and I don't like relate to Ravs as friends. Like I just don't get that dynamic. I think it's whatever.
Yeah, right. Again, so and I'm not saying when I say friend, remember this is a broader example of friend, but like
no, I know, but I just don't have that relationship with Rebbeim is more my point.
Okay, yeah. I mean, look, I'm going to use an example here, right? Tomorrow, I would say that we're friends, but you started off as my high school student, right? But like, we I eat dinner at your house, we like, I'm chavrusas with your husband and friends with your husband, but I'm also his Rebbe, so like there can be a weird overlap sometimes, or again, I've seen this with my own Rebbeim, like, Rabbi Chait started off as a high school Rebbe, and he was a high school Rebbe, and then he was a yeshiva, Rosh Yeshiva, but then like he became friends with some of his students. It's not very common in the world at large, but like it does happen.
It totally makes sense, but like while we're still clarifying concepts, I just needed a more clear-cut example. That's all.
I hear, yeah. Rabbi Maruf is another example, right? Rabbi Maruf, I used to consider one of my rabbis, but like then we became friends, and like I still learn from him, but like, yeah.
Can I
Yeah,
ask
I just
something just based on
Yeah,
this?
sure.
Because I thought that when we define friendship, like in general, we were saying there's like a common, what did we say exactly? What was the
Well,
language?
we use the vague word relationship and experience, and we were trying to put it into words.
I think
Uh,
there was a good line. Wait.
a relationship for the purpose of
Okay.
attaining a good.
Yeah, so I'm saying like Vanessa, wouldn't you agree that you technically have that relationship with your Rav, even if you don't think that of them as like a friend in like the common
Yeah, like
sense?
you're not hanging out with your Rav,
But like it's still considered a friendship by this
yeah,
definition.
it still is this,
yeah, but there's also relationships with rebellion where like it could be more like it can be a little more utilitarian. I think I'm also a little stuck on what exactly it means by the good. I think I have number three
so
as much
if you
more
need a
like
working
in
definition of the good, I would say it is development or actualization as a Jew and a human being. Okay,
okay.
whatever that means.
Okay,
Okay,
here's an example of like where Rav like might not meet that exact criteria, even though all
yeah,
like I think we all agree that they should, but like if you're going to a shiur to get like chizuk because you've been a little down, like that's not like quite the same thing. Like
yeah, that might be utility.
that's utility, right? Like people do
Could
have
be, yeah,
utilitarian relationships with rebellion and like
right.
that's not ideal, but that
Yeah,
is
it could be,
like
but maybe it is in the objective good. Maybe inspiration is part of what you need in order to be able to like adhere to a developmental track.
yes, but my point is that not all relationships with rebellion unfortunately fit into number three, even though they should. Like whatever. I
Yeah,
think
You said
agree. Yeah,
that
yeah.
before.
Yeah, I mean, I think what part of the question that we're
In
grappling with
your
here
question.
is is this number three? Well, so we've acknowledged that this could be two different ways, right? Like, so let's right now just talk about where they are a level three friendship to you, right? Meaning they're serving this purpose of facilitating your pursuit of the objective good, right? And you're facilitating their pursuit in the sense that I learned a lot from my rabbis. I learned much from my friends, but I learned the most from my students.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Okay. So you're facilitating that also. So I think the question here is like, to what extent or what does the relationship look like outside of the learning thing? So
Yeah,
in
I
some
think that's more where
cases,
I was just getting
it's
stuck.
just an exchange of knowledge. Okay. Which I think you could say that all the people who you go to shiur with, or not all the people, but people who you go to shiur with are just in the context of knowledge. In some cases, let's say with me and Rabbi Moskowitz, I consulted him about stuff and like opened up to him. So I'm getting that out of him. I enjoy his company. There are, by the way, I'm not going to name names, but there are people who I learn from who I love learning from them, but I would never hang out with them because there's a personality clash. And then utility, I don't know if I can get notes from someone, maybe it's not a
Yeah.
relationship. So yeah, so like remember that's why I also started off with this preface here that you got to broaden your concept of friendship. Maybe relationship is better, a better term. Yeah. All right. Tamar's been waiting patiently. Yeah, Tamar.
Oh, I wanted to say about the Rambam's introductory paragraph. Can you scroll back to it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or actually, maybe it was our summary that I was looking at. Just yeah, where was it? Okay, whatever. I think I'll remember. I wanted to say, based on what we were saying, just to crystallize it a little more, that maybe what the Rambam was saying is that um, when you're in the pursuit of a friendship of objective good or of a noble purpose, you should. And this is going to be a relationship, like we were talking about. It is going to be a relationship, but in the pursuit of it, you shouldn't stop at things that will take away like the lower levels. If it costs you money or if it's not as enjoyable as it would be because you're conforming to their personality or something like that,
Yeah.
that you that maybe it's like specifically, I mean, I know he's not saying it explicitly, but like maybe what he because I was confused at first because I thought he was saying to get an objectively good friend, you should spend money and change your personality, which just seemed like that's not the typical thing. But and then you were saying that it's that even if you need to, you should. So I think
Yeah.
I
Even
guess
if
what
you
I'm
need
saying
to.
is that maybe it's yeah. So that was helpful to clarify. And I was wondering if it's also like those are the other possible ways to have a relationship. So you shouldn't like be worried that you're losing out on utility or that you're losing out on hanging outness or something, because in your pursuit of developing a subjectively good friendship, you
That's
should
good. Yeah.
be willing to
Yeah,
sacrifice
and
lower
just
levels.
just to maybe state the premise more explicitly here is that the premise here is that everything else that you have and are doing is for the sake of the objective good, or should be, So like it is not a sacrifice to do this if this is going to get you the objective good. It's only a sacrifice if you're doing it and it's not getting you the objective good. Like again, taking the money or the molding your personality to be in line with what is psychologically like in line with their disposition. If you're doing that and you're not getting the objective good, then why are you doing that? Like, like there's just no purpose to it. Okay. Going back to the chat, Rivka says, so first she said, I disagree. And Vanessa said, oh, no, that was a separate comment. Then Rivka says, if the Rav is playing a role and you are suppressing parts of yourself, how is that an authentic friendship? So again, you got to broaden your idea of friendship here, that it is a relationship, because the relationship is one in which you are both striving for the good. Your role as the student in it vis-a-vis the Rav is to get knowledge and to facilitate your development from, I can't tell if Rivka's there. Oh yeah, she's okay. Good. All right, I just want to make sure that I wasn't just saying into the ether. Your role as a student is to to receive knowledge and development from the Rav, and the Rav's role is to gain knowledge from teaching you. So that's what I was saying before of that could just be purely on the level of development. Beyond that, it could be that you're enjoying each other's company. It could also be that you're putting your trust in them. But it is a relationship of teaching. And look, there are chavrusas that I have that I'm also friends with, but there are chavrusas that I have that I just learn with, that we don't have any relationship outside of that. And same thing with my rabbis. There are people who I just learn from. And then the people I learn from and I trust, and the people I learn from and I trust, and I enjoy their company and we hang out or whatever, So I don't know if that answers your question or not. Maybe I don't know what you mean by authentic friendship. Because it sounds like from the question, just the question alone, that you're trying to put this into category 2. And this is not a category 2 thing. This transcends category 2.
Well, so I wrote later in the chat that
okay.
I think it is a gender thing. I think for you, with somebody who's a Rav,
yeah,
you can have that kind of friendship, but for most women, we're not hanging out with the Rav, so to just put us in a different category, there's a disconnect, I guess.
Right. That's probably
what you were talking about, and women and in relationship to a Rav. Because
okay, that is probably true, but I still think that it can go the other way. Like again, when Rabbi Moskowitz died, there were many of his female students who, for them, he was a level 3, relationship. Again, not a. And look, he was a level 3 relationship and a level 2 relationship and a level 1 relationship in the sense of they learned from him and he facilitated their entire development. They would ask him for advice, and he was, they would confide in him. Again, not 2 ways, but they would confide in him. And they enjoy his comedy because he was a hilarious guy, So yeah, but I do agree that there is going to be some sort of probably some sort of limit. But I'll also mention, remember, Rav here does not mean a person who got smicha from an institution. Rav means teacher. So you can have a female Rav and have this relationship with a female Rav, And I'm not saying that as a taking a stance on the can women have smicha thing. I'm saying Rav just means a teacher,
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Our list of questions here. Okay, so we did this. Okay, I think friendship or death. I know we just read what Rav Shelot said that this is also about security, but let's just take the Rambam at face value and say that this is about a friend for a level 3 friend. So why friendship or death, do you think? I don't think it's complicated. Yeah, Vanessa?
The whole purpose of why we're here is to cultivate ourselves and grow closer to Hashem and all that fun stuff. If you're not doing all that stuff, you might as well be
Okay, good. So I think you need 2 premises. That's one of them. Is one, the purpose of life is the good, and if you're not doing that, if you're not involved in that, you're not you're not living. Okay. And then what's the other premise you need in order to explain this? And I'll give you a hint. The person says, well, why do I need a friend? Evidently, what? Yeah, Vanessa?
It is not good for men to be alone. Like,
Well, that's about marriage.
um,
You can't do it alone. Okay? Right. And apparently it's impossible to do alone. And we actually learned about this last time that Meiri said, you can't see yourself objectively, right? No one can see themselves objectively. And you might also argue perhaps you also need a confidant. Okay. Now I know that's getting into 2B, but I do think a 3B person will. I don't think it's possible to really have a complete level 3 relationship without you being able to confide in them, because like in a surround sound way. In other words, you can have a relationship with a Rav as a vehicle of knowledge, but a true partner in your development, I think you need to be able to open up and like ask them about stuff. Again, I'm not saying every Rav has to be that, but I'm saying like I call it a surround sound Rav. Um, so that you can work on those, private issues with someone else. Okay, so that's that. Okay, how far should you go in these strategies? So we answered this, I think, which is by saying, oh, you know what? Here's the secret. I have to do bullet point, then strike through. Then I don't have to undo it. Okay. So I think here we said that you should go as far as you can without compromising the good. Okay. If you're using these strategies, and the good is not forthcoming, then you're barking up the wrong tree. Okay, meaning find another Rav, or find another friend for that purpose. Okay. And by the way, it's not an invalidation of the Rav. Like, let's say for example, you have someone who's a tzaddik, who's a peer, and you really want to be friends with them, and they'd be a good influence on you, but they have you can only have so many best friends or friends who you have this relationship with, and they don't have any slots, right? Like they don't have the bandwidth or the time to be able to provide that. That's not an indictment of them. That's just it didn't work out, or you move across the country, Yeah. Okay. Is this specifically directing a person to make friends outside of their family and significant other, or can this friendship be one of those people? It can be one of those people. Okay. I don't think you need someone outside of your family for this. If you have a good spouse, if you have a good father, mother, they could be this kind of relationship. I know, one of my really good friends, his father is his Rav, and I'm sure they have this relationship, like where he's his level 3 friend, and they, all right, what does Aristotle mean such that the Rambam sees fit to quote him? We often think of friendship as exposing you to different perspectives in a different world, but Aristotle sounds like he's saying the opposite. So your friend is your other self. So I think this is a profound meaning now. In what sense is your friend your other self, or did we translate it 2 ways? Yeah, your friend is your other self. What do you think he means by that? Again, we're kind of guessing here because we don't know what the Greek said. I think people also quote Aristotle as saying, I don't know if this is a real quote or not. People quote Aristotle as saying that a friend is like something like they probably get. Hold on a second. I can probably look it up. Aristotle, soul, body, quote, friend. A single soul dwelling in 2 bodies. I don't know if that's a real quote or not. Rivka says you learn to accept others and love parts of you that may be hard to accept. That's a good interpretation. Let me think about that for 1 second. That's definitely a result of friendship, of good friendship. I would agree with that. Yeah, I have an interpretation I think is more in line with the way that the Rambam explains him. But that definitely fits. Yeah, Tamar?
Maybe it's like yourself is like you as like a person trying to achieve the good, and you just have this other person also in that same slot.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay. Oh, that's a good term. Okay, so that's a possibility. Okay, so this is the a level 3 friendship is each person trying to attain the good. And, this just happens to be someone in that other slot. That kind of fits with the Aristotle quote that I said. My understanding is like this: is at our core, all human beings are fundamentally the same. Okay, the differences are only accidental and particular. Okay, so you really are relating to this person the same way, essentially, as you relate to yourself. Okay, and I think that's what he says, that a true friend is the same soul in two different bodies. A tzelem elokim is a tzelem elokim. We have different personality and circumstances, but we're essentially the same. So I think and you cannot say that for a friendship that's psychological, because you are a different person psychologically than someone else, but essentially you're the same metaphysically. All right, the Rambam and the Mishnah depicts friendship acquisition as much more proactive than we're used to. What's the Havamina? Why are we okay? Yeah. So, what's the answer here? Why can't you just let this friendship happen? It ain't gonna happen automatically. Yeah. What do you say, Raquel?
It's not possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could get lucky, right? But it ain't gonna happen
really rare. Yes.
automatically. It takes work. It can't happen with all people. Most people whose friendship you default into are going to be 2A and not necessarily conducive to 3 or even 2B, right? Yeah, Tamar?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, not using this like phrase technically, but like the making this friend as part of your Machlas L'chaim.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah, you have to go to war. Go to war for your friend. Yeah. Yeah, Kelly.
Also just like usually friendships, you kind of just like see if you click, and you don't have to like reveal, or even like in this case, you have to know that you're seeking the good, which is in itself a lot of work
Right,
for
that's also
yourself.
true.
Like, so then yeah, you have to do that beforehand.
No, you need
And
to
another thing,
prioritize.
yeah, and I also think like it's not necessarily obvious. Like when you meet someone else, it's not necessarily obvious that this is, I mean, it could be that it's clear that it's important to them, and it could be that you're very clear about what's important to you, but maybe you're not, and you need to be
Right.
proactive about like showing, oh yeah, this is what's important to me, and seeing from the other person that it's their value as well.
Yeah, okay, that's for level 3, and you need to do some investigative work. Okay, yeah. All right. Okay, and then now let's just go. So I think we've answered all of these questions, and now we just need to look at our questions on the Mishnah. So okay, so I think we answered why it says Knei, right? That's like the whole Rambam, that you need to be willing to go to that to the utmost extent. Why does it say a friend without specifying what kind of friend? So this is answered just textually, that this is the true purpose of friendship. Like this is the highest level friend, and I think you get this contextually also, that this is in Pirkei Avos, right? You don't need to tell, like we said before, you don't need to tell someone, get a friend whose company you enjoy. Everyone does that automatically. Okay. Both clauses are stated in the singular. Why do you think it says one friend instead of many? I think you give several answers to this. Any off the cuff answers for why it doesn't say Chaverim? Yeah, Racheli?
Well, it's a very rare thing, so it's
Yeah.
possible you'll only find one.
Yeah, I'd say it's rare, and it's possible. Sorry, it's possible you
Also, like
will
it's
only
not
find.
just
Yeah.
also it's not just possible, it could be enough. Meaning if you only
Yeah,
find
that was the other
one,
thing
that
also.
can satisfy
It's
the
it's the
requirement.
minimum, right? Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so there's that. What is the Havamina? Well, I think the Havamina is that either, sorry. Oh. This is not working. All right, whatever. Havamina is you either are looking for the wrong kind of friend, okay, or you think that you can go it alone. I think it was which we covered before. Who's the intended audience? So clearly, what would the Rambam say the audience of Knei Lecha Chaver is? Someone who
As a Elohim.
well, everyone has a Tzelem Elohim, right?
Everyone.
But yeah, everyone.
Well, okay. So yeah, that's true. Okay, but what would you need? So what I was gonna say, I mean, everyone should have this kind of friend, someone who is interested in the good, right? He's talking to a person who's already interested in the good, right? And even though everyone should have this kind of friend, good luck being talked to by this mishnah and getting the right message if you're not interested in the good. And then question two, what quality should this friend have? We've definitely talked about that at length. So truthfully speaking, this could be anybody, but there are circumstantial reasons why this might not be appropriate. So, for example, it is possible to have a non-Jew as this kind of friend, right? They say, for example, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi and Antoninus, who unfortunately is not Marcus Aurelius, even though that'd be really cool, but they had this kind of friendship. And theoretically, you could have someone, different genders having this friendship. But again, like Rivka pointed out, there's going to be not a glass ceiling, a glass machitza, that's going to make certain types of closeness at risk. So maybe you shouldn't endeavor that. But again, you can learn from a Rav who is an opposite gender. You can learn from a teacher who's an opposite gender. Whether you can be a confidant, that's up to you and that's up to them. Whether you enjoy their, it's very, very particular. But there's nothing inherently gender specific about this. And same thing with knowledge, right? Again, a Talmud and a Rav and his Talmud. I have gained a lot from students in high school who are just starting out and they don't have a lot of knowledge, but they bring out the best in me in terms of my teaching, and then it helps me develop the most. Okay. My favorite kinds of Pirkei Avos shiurim, I know this was longer than usual, are the ones where we ask all the questions and we answer all the questions. That's what I like to do every time, but sometimes I'm just too tired by the end of the week. But I think we really nailed it this time. And can you see why this is a Rambam that A, completely changed the way I view all relationships, and B, I come back to, year after year, and there's always new stuff to see. It's a very, very good Rambam. Yeah. Okay. So as I mentioned at the beginning of shiur, next time, we didn't get to Rabbeinu Yonah. Okay, so next time, I think we should do maybe Rabbeinu Yonah, but we'll see if I'm bored and want to do something else. But I kind of want to give a Hanukkah shiur next week if I find something to give Hanukkah shiur on. So if you have any requests of topics, tell me before Shabbos, okay? Because that's when I'm going to start looking. And yeah, all right. Thank you for coming. This is good.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Shalom if I don't see you.